All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today we're looking at something highly specific and, honestly, incredibly urgent. We are clinically breaking down a briefing known as Asha Resurgent. This forecast maps out the astrology of a potential 2026 Iran war. And we're not talking about vague predictions here. This briefing details a completely rigid structural reset driven entirely by planetary alignments. So let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. The briefing immediately warns us that the piece we might see early in the year, it's completely deceptive. It strictly defines the May 1st diplomatic pause as a thermodynamic illusion. Basically, it's an artificial calm, a total illusion that's just masking the real, intense tactical timeline that is rapidly spinning up right there in the background.
And this brilliantly illustrates the exact, rigid chronological countdown we are looking at. We shift from that illusion on May 1st directly into an ignition phase on May 16th. Then we hit absolute peak intensity 10 days later on May 26th, finally culminating in a highly specific extraction event on July 4th. What's striking here is that this sequence is completely stripped of politics. It is reduced to pure, unavoidable tactical timing.
Now, you might be wondering what's actually driving this timeline. Well, the briefing introduces a very specific doctrine called the physics of Asha. And according to the source material, this operates as a literal cosmic force. Its forecasted physical objective is completely clinical. We're talking about the total neutralization of static Iranian infrastructure. It outlines the systematic, physical dismantling of heavily fortified bunkers and deep earth facilities.
But here's the wild part. This entire dismantling is strictly tied to exact celestial triggers. That ignition phase we mentioned, it strikes exactly on May 16th. Right at 28 degrees Aries. Then, fast forward to May 26th, the absolute peak intensity. This perfectly synchronizes with Mars square Pluto, which if you follow astrology, you know is an alignment that historically signals massive, explosive friction. The briefing treats these planetary mechanics as absolutely unavoidable tactical ignition points.
So the crucial point is that this operation has a very strict endpoint. The brief literally states, and I quote, "The cycle concludes on July 4th with the surgical retrieval of nuclear dust from Iran." This happens exactly during the Mars-Uranus conjunction in Gemini. The absolute, non-negotiable objective here is the surgical, physical extraction of nuclear assets.
When you look at the big picture, the overarching theme of this forecast is a forced structural shift. It's an incredibly stark transition. We're moving from what the source describes as static dogma, which is essentially represented by all that neutralized infrastructure, straight into a new dynamic cosmic order. Again, we're clinically reporting what's in the brief here, and it describes a massive, ground-up reset that is essentially mandated by these specific alignments.
Ultimately, the brief presents this 2026 timeline where intense, ground-level military action is fundamentally married to planetary motion, which honestly leaves us with a pretty compelling, lingering question. Do precise cosmic alignments truly dictate the absolute inevitability of geopolitical resets? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me for this rapid-fire explainer, and I'll catch you next time.